We love you. John is wearing gloves. That's news. Okay. That was a jump scare.
Surprise!
Oh, man. Breaking news! They're updating the bracket system once more, and guess who's back to talk about it? Your boys here on the MTG Thoughtcast. That's right. My name is Joseph. I'm one of the hosts here, and across the screen or across your ears is my brother Luigi. Just kidding. It's John. As you can see, he's dressed up. What's going on, John?
Mamma mia! We had a plan, and then Wizard said, "Nah, let's do brackets instead."
That's right. That's right. For those audio-only listeners, I'll give a brief description. It's Halloween. Happy Halloween, first of all. John is dressed up as Luigi from the Mario Brothers, which is ironic because I'm the younger brother, which meant that I was always Luigi. You were always the Mario to my Luigi. And I am Joseph. I'm one of your other hosts here, and I am currently dressed up as Totoro from the critically acclaimed film from Hayao Miyazaki, My Neighbor Totoro. That's what we're doing here. Happy Halloween, everybody. I hope that your Halloween week is going great and that fall weather is hitting you guys and you're ready for trick-or-treating and some candy.
There's nothing more thematic than a Halloween jump scare of surprise bracket change, right?
Surprise bracket changes. Yes. That's what we're talking about today. We got a kind of a shock drop. Were they planning on doing a bracket update?
As far as I'm aware, no. This kind of just came out of nowhere, I suppose.
Didn't hear anyone talking about it until now, where Gavin Verhey, who is one of the designers over at Magic and is also the head of the Commander Committee, posted big long update. We have new languaging around brackets, power brackets for Commander. We have some big changes to the Game Changers list, and then we kind of have some looking forward going from there on what all of this means, things that they're maybe going to be updating at the top of the year, etc., etc. But that's everything we're going to be talking about today. So stick around for all of the conversations around that, because I know that you and I both have some pretty intense opinions on these things. So it's gonna get lovely later on. But before we get there, we have to give a quick shout out to sponsor of the show, Heavy Play. These are our good friends in gaming accessories. If you're looking for new playmats, new dice boxes, new deck boxes, etc., some new sleeves perhaps, you can check out our friends over at Heavy Play. They're doing some of the most incredible and innovative work in the gaming accessory sphere. There's magnets involved. There's modularity involved. There is beautiful finishes, leatherette, windows for commanders. It's all like everything you would want in gaming accessories as a Commander player. So go check them out. You can use code MTG Thoughtcast at checkout for 10% off of your first order with them, or just use the link down below. It's heavyplay.com/MTG Thoughtcast, and that will get you that discount. If you have some thoughts that you would also like to cast, you can join us over on the Thoughtcast Discord. It's linked down below as well. It is the place on the internet to get in touch with the two of us here on your screen or in your ears. It is where we play Commander games. It's where we brew decks. We talk about spoilers. We talk about news like this. So if you want to be the first to know about all of that and what we think about it and ask us questions about it, you got to join our Discord. There's just no other way. If you don't want to do that and you still want to support the show, you can check all of the little YouTube boxes down below. Likes, comments, and subscribes help out a ton, especially with what Google has been doing with the algorithm lately. It's been funky. So liking videos is more important than ever. Commenting on videos is more important than ever. And of course, subscribing, notifications, all of those things help immensely as well. So if you want to support us, throw us a bone, hit all those YouTube buttons down below. Thank you so much to everyone who's been doing that. And those of you who I believe will do that. We love you. John is wearing gloves. That's news. Okay. That was a jump scare.
Surprise!
Oh, man. John, I think we should just get straight into it. We need to talk about some brackets tonight.
Yes, we do. So, for a quick summarize for anybody who might be a bit newer and not quite sure what this is we are talking about, over the course of, let's go ahead and call this the entirety of this year, I would say it's been a structure system to Commander from some previous stuff that happened last year. Basically, a structure system is kind of being implemented for Commander as a whole. They're calling it still the beta of this, and that's made obvious with something like today is like a radical change like this can still be applied to it before they concrete set this in stone as like, this is the brackets and the game changers that you can abide by when you are especially visiting in with new pods that you don't normally play with. So what this combination of things is a brackets numbering system that you can help kind of power level the deck that you are currently playing, and then a collection of cards that they refer to as the game changer cards, that they are also help identify what bracket you are playing at, but also they are like the marquee identifiable cards that if you are playing those as either your commander or in your 99 of your deck, they do a thing that has a fundamental impact over the entirety of the game, both on your battlefield and your opponent's battlefields, that, as they would say, that they change the course of the game and are considered more powerful than traditional Magic cards.
Yeah, and in the update video that Gavin posted today, as of recording, they referenced that they started the idea of the Game Changers list with a pretty small number of cards, and it wasn't enough. And then the first update included too many cards, which is why they wanted to scale it back. So we've not seen anything added onto the Game Changers list on this round of updates. Only 10 cards removed from it.
Correct. And they had broken those cards down into a variety of different things. The first ones of cards that they had removed away is legendary creatures that are stronger as commanders, which was like probably of the cards that are on this list, some of the ones that really stuck out as some of the like, wow, they really made this kind of change. This is legendary creatures Kinnan, Bonder Prodigy, Urza, Lord High Artificer, Winota, Joiner of Forces, and Yuriko, Tiger's Shadow.
Oh man, what a list of creatures. These are obviously problematic creatures. And I want to say that I agree with them taking these off of the Game Changers list, because the statement that was made about this is that the easiest thing to say no to is somebody's commander. So if somebody is playing with one of these in the command zone in whatever bracket, you can obviously just say, I don't want to play against your Kinnan deck. I don't want to play against your Urza deck, even if it's fair. These are difficult creatures to handle for reasons that it's why they exist in the CDH format. Like, these are all commanders that can see play in the highest level of competitive commander. So when somebody, whether with pure intentions or a bad faith argument, are trying to play these commanders in lower bracket levels, it's so much easier because it's telegraphed. They sit down, they reveal their commander, and you say, no, I don't want to play against Urza. This is not what my deck is going to be stacked up well against. That's not the game that I'm in for tonight. So this becomes an easier conversation to have, and they don't need to exist on the Game Changers list, because the Game Changers list really only affects bracket 3, if you think about it. Because brackets 2 and 1, I'm kind of excluding 1 and 5 for the sake of today's episode as a whole, because 1 doesn't really exist and 5 regulates itself, and it's not something that I'm particularly a part of. It also has no restrictions on it on bracket 5. It's just CDH metagame. Bracket 1 is exhibition, which is goofy decks, which I just don't think the average person plays. So we're really talking about brackets 2, 3, and 4 for this, where if you boil all of those down, it's bracket 2 is no game changers, bracket 3 is up to 3 game changers, and then bracket 4 is any number of game changers. So really, the list only actually affects bracket 3, which it's really difficult, I would say, to make a bracket 3 Urza Lord High Artificer deck because of the nature of the deck. It is so consistent and goes infinite quickly. Same with Kinnan, same with Winota, same with Yuriko. All of these are incredibly powerful commanders that exist in the zone. If you're trying to play those in bracket 3, it doesn't matter whether they're a game changer or not, because you're just going to say no to playing against somebody who is saying, oh, it's just a bracket 3 Kinnan deck. You're going to say, I don't want to play against that. So that's the conversation that they're trying to spur forward with taking those off of the game changers list.
Yeah. The next grouping of cards that have been removed from the Game Changers list are ones that they had called as big mana, which is sort of in the same sort of vein as that, is like these are incredibly powerful pieces that, yeah, they can be cheated into play through a variety of different means, either coming off the top or being reanimated or whatever, but that is kind of true of a lot of big mana types of cards. And so this collection is Jin-Gitaxias Core Augur, Vorinclex Voice of Hunger, Expropriate, and Sway of the Stars. Very interestingly, Sway of the Stars was something that was just recently put from the Game Changers list. For those unfamiliar, the last time we had an update like this was a collection of cards that got shifted off the list as well, along with other cards like Sway of the Stars being removed from the ban list. Now it's gone from the Game Changer list to just regular old play.
Yeah, totally. This feels like the most interesting group. So let's go through each of these, and I would love to know your thoughts on taking these off of the Game Changers list. So let's just start with the Praetors, Jin-Gitaxias and Vorinclex. Do you think this was a good move?
I mean, I would say so. I mean, there's always, for a very long time with these original Praetor cards, they've always had this era about them of they can be strong and oppressive. And certainly in the case of Vorinclex, I don't think so much again. Jin-Gitaxias, excuse me.
Jin-Gitaxias.
Jin-Gitaxias, yes, exactly. I would think Vorinclex would maybe be the one is that I disagree with on this one. Jin, I think, is totally fine because I think we had this conversation when the Game Changers list as a whole was already established to begin with, is that like we have a lot of mainstay staple pieces now that are just anti-Jin-Gitaxias, right? Back in the day there, when Jin was a very strong, powerful card to reanimate, we weren't sitting behind commander staple all-stars like Thought Vessels and other like artifact ramp pieces that are also just giving us no max hand size. And then also just immense amounts of graveyard recursion for the reanimator decks that would try to get him down into play. You know what I mean? Like there are stronger Jins than this one now. So this Jin
God, yeah, the one that counters spells.
That one is
so
stupid
much stronger. Yeah, for the uninitiated, Jin-Gitaxias makes your opponent's maximum hand size reduced by 7. And if you have something like a Reliquary Tower in play, you have no max hand size, which means that no max hand size reduced by 7 is still no max hand size. And then Jin-Gitaxias does nothing other than draw your opponent 7 cards, which is still a very strong thing to do. If we're talking about like, if these are getting hard cast, then they're fair. They're totally fair. They're expensive cards should be splashy. Expensive cards should win the game. It's totally fine to try and win the game of Commander. So Jin-Gitaxias drawing 7 cards is unbelievably strong. Vorinclex is, I think, where you and I are maybe pulling a side glance at of this might still be too strong to not be a game changer, even if you're casting it fairly, because it's in green, and it is exclusively mana denial. So it's going to be easy to hit it, and as soon as you do, it warps the game around itself. There's no real way to prevent what Vorinclex does, other than I'm going to cast a spell to deal with it. But even if you do that, the delayed trigger of those, or I guess, is it a trigger? Every tap a land for mana, whenever an opponent taps it, it doesn't untap during its next untap step. That trigger still goes off and it still exists. So whatever mana is being spent to deal with Vorinclex is still going to be denied in a following turn.
Yeah,
so
which again, for the same reason as Jin, to be fair, a lot of decks are now running a lot of that 1 and 2 mana interaction types of things that, in my personal experience, when a card like Vorinclex does come down into play, that instantly sets you as sort of the arch enemy of the table, that the 3 of your other remaining opponents will start like like conniving together, be like, okay, who's willing to go ahead and spend like 2-3 mana to Swords to Plowshares or Heroes Downfall or do whatever to Vorinclex, and then all you've really done is have 3 opponents temporarily put a truce together to stop you, the problem.
Yeah, it's true. And not to be like the dies to removal guy, but exactly that. Like it doesn't have any protection on itself whatsoever. It doesn't even have haste. It's got trample. It's a big boy. It's 7/6. But if anything, this is just leaning more towards like just play more removal in your decks. Find thematic removal options for your decks so that you're still staying on whatever synergy path your deck is leading you down, but is also able to deal with massive threats like Vorinclex. Because Vorinclex is not the only threat in the game. There is plenty of other threats that will be in your opponent's decks, and you're going to need to deal with those. So if you can't deal with those while also progressing your own game plan, it is maybe time to relook at the synergy of your deck. And you can use Vorinclex as the jumping off point of, well, this is probably the worst thing that I would need to deal with because I have to deal with it and then also lose a turn essentially to do it. So it's a good litmus test for whether your deck functions at a table or not. I think there's a lot of misconceptions about my deck works in gold fishing versus my deck works at a table. Which is why I'm always just an advocate of, yes, goldfish so you know what your synergies do, but like don't, sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Goldfish so that you know what your deck can do, and then play at a table so that you see what your deck actually does. Play it a few times before you make rounds of changes. Change your decks often. Keep a maybe board in your decks so that you have options as you play through this deck multiple times to swap in like, oh man, I have too much card draw and not enough removal. I need to swap some things around in there. So things like Vorinclex give you a good insight into whether your deck functions at a table or not. So yeah, I think I still am a little leery just because of the reputation that Vorinclex has of it not being a game changer. But I think you're right. I think it's just needs dealt with like most things do.
To just moving us along, got any extra thoughts to talk about as far as Expropriate or Sway of the Stars? I would think personally the one we can kind of just like chop away here is Sway of the Stars, because like, have you even seen anybody play one of these yet?
No. It's a very specific deck that wants to play Sway of the Stars or Worldfire, and I've not seen either of those.
Yep. So that can just kind of live in its own little world. Expropriate, definitely. I know, is actually something that you called out before as something you would like to see off the Game Changer.
Did I say that I wanted to see it off the Game Changer list?
Yes, you did.
Oh,
because
probably
you said
for the exact reason of it's a super expensive spell. At some point, you just have to allow that of like, this is just the game of Magic. Expropriate is a incredibly powerful spell. It typically will gain you the best permanent on everybody's board and give you an extra turn for 9 mana. But again, it's 9 mana. And sorceries, especially, are particularly difficult to cheat into play outside of something like an Omniscience, which it itself is like 9 mana, or ramping super hard into it, in which case that's what your deck's doing, and you get rewarded for doing that by playing something like Expropriate. So I don't think that it's going to be a problem in brackets 2 or brackets 3 because of the speed of those brackets. And I think that segues us nicely into the next topic of what's changing on the brackets updates. We can talk briefly about Deflecting SWAT and Food Chain as well.
Yes, yep, those are
heading in that way. But pin that. Pin in Expropriate.
Yeah, pin in that for right now. But yeah, so as you were saying, our last 2 cards that were removed from the Game Changers list, I think they just kind of called these as like Food Chain related towards like combo related stuff, and then Deflecting SWAT as one of those like free cast kind of spells. They tend to have both of these types of cards already still on the Game Changers list, but I think for the same reason as some of the legendary creatures that we're talking about, that is like both of these are kind of narrow enough that if you are not playing them in a combo way, like I'm an example of this actually, like for a little while there, I was playing Food Chain fair. Like I had it in a deck that I did not have the combo pieces with it. I do now, but when I first got my Food Chain, I was playing it as just a fair creature accelerator.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a really great piece of acceleration that happens to, it's similar to like Ashnod's Altar, where it's like this is an accelerator piece in the decks that want to sacrifice, or in Food Chain's case, exile, get rid of creatures to just get big mana for something else. Again, similar to Ashnod's Altar, but there is fair ways to play it. Like Ashnod's Altar sacrificing an Eldrazi Scion to make 2 mana instead of 1 is still really, really good. And Food Chain, just exiling a big creature that's got a huge ETB on it to just get your mana for the next one going is also excellent. I think about like a Henzi deck that is looking to get rid of something, which I guess in Henzi's case, you wouldn't get the Blitz card draw, but whatever. Get rid of something big to play something bigger. That's the whole point of Food Chain. And it's a sweet card, and it's cool that it will now get to be played fairly, because this actually also segues nicely into the next portion of the bracket updates, which is expectations on amount of turns that a game should take. Food Chain, the reason they brought it off of the Game Changer list is because of the no early combos rules that exists in brackets 2 and brackets 3, so that the games can go respectively to about turn 8 and about turn 6. Is that what the other one is? Or is it
correct? Yep. No
Yeah.
2-card combos before turn 6.
Right, exactly. So Food Chain, you kind of can't, and again, it's important to note that the brackets are a jumping off point for your conversations with your commander groups, or if you're going to a new store and you're sitting down with a new group, the brackets are a jumping off point. They are goalposts and not guidelines. So going like, oh, I'm going to put Food Chain combo in my deck, but I'm not going to play it until turn 6. That's being a bad actor, and that's a bad faith argument for why that should exist in a lower bracket, because it's now not a game changer and you can just hold the combo off till later. If there's a combo that can happen realistically before turn 6 consistently, that combo now has to exist at bracket 4 or higher. It cannot exist in brackets 2 or 3. So something like Food Chain, it is a unimpactful removal from the Game Changers list, because the brackets are doing the heavy lifting for that, which means that it was a good thing to remove, because the more cards that are on the Game Changers list, the more mental acuity is needed in deck building, where you have to kind of remember all of these different things, which is why they want to keep it pretty small.
Yeah, that was one of the original things that I disliked the most as far as the Game Changer list. We already have a ban list, and now you want relatively new players to try to learn that, like, oh, there's also this guideline of deck building levels that also are abided by this other list of cards that isn't a ban list, but you could get the naughty finger wag if you play that card in this deck.
Right. Yeah, again, the important thing about the brackets is intent of play. This is what they've consistently reiterated, and what I have found to be the most useful for the brackets is taking a look at your deck, again, playing it a few times, make some mistakes, play your decks in the wrong brackets just to see, like, if you're trying to figure it out, like, it's almost impossible to tell outside of a few of the deck building restrictions what bracket your deck should exist in, outside of, I'm going to start playing it at a 3. And if it's consistently getting trampled, then I'm going to bring it down to bracket 2, where it might sit better. Or vice versa. I'm going to start it at bracket 3, and maybe I'm stomping like in bracket 3 because the deck is really consistent and it's very strong and it is firing off its wins and has multiple ways to win in that. Bring it up to bracket 4. Optimize that thing. Throw even more Game Changers in it, and then compete in bracket 4. Again, those restrictions help to kind of guide where your decks are going to sit. So now, like, what I have found incredibly helpful with these bracket lists is I have kind of an idea of which of my decks in my bag sit at those different levels, and it's made the pregame conversations at stores genuinely so much easier. The brackets are a success, in my opinion, because everyone has some agreed upon guidelines of going, okay, do we want to play a bracket 3 game? And I can go, excellent. I've got these 3 bracket 3 decks. I'm going to play whichever one of those I want to play. So it just helps hone in the decision of what deck to play at a store.
I think a cool point out of all of this as well is if you are the type of person who is kind of really using something like the brackets and the game changers as your sort of building guide restriction, I find myself as sort of being as fault of that. I have, as of late, over the course of this year, since the introduction of the game changers, I've really avoided putting any of them in my decks at all because
Me too.
I don't know who else wants to play with those types of cards. So something like seeing Food Chain come off of that list, I'd feel more comfortable about playing the deck of mine that has it in there. And also the opportunity for some more people who have not necessarily been afraid to try it, but just like if you've had one kicking in your binder, but we're not interested in going too heavily up into like a higher bracket play, now you can slap just Food Chain by itself in a deck of yours. Like there's an exciting element to this here of like we had this year Edge of Eternities with Warp, and we're coming up on Lorwyn with Evoke. That like cards like those are fantastic with Food Chain, and more people got to try this. Yeah, more people got to play that synergy. And same is true of a lot of these types of cards. Some people who have older collections, they might be sitting on an Expropriate, and like you may have never really wanted to play
Don't group
a card.
Expropriate into older, John. That hurts my heart. I guess
2016.
That was 10 years ago. Sorry. Anyway,
but like you get what I mean is like some of these types of cards that they have listed here. Heck, I was just talking about this earlier, right? Did we not just have an Urza Lord High Artificer on the bonus sheet for Final Fantasy? If you were a more casual player and you opened up one of those, now you're not necessarily locked into a feel bad situation because you own one now. You should never feel bad about the cards that you own or the cards that you play. If you've gotten Urza and you want to give that a go in your artifacts heavy shell with that isn't absolutely trying to get him down crazy fast and doing combos and loops and whatever with him, then you should feel proud to have a card like that in your deck. You should never feel like you're getting ridiculed or diminished because of the types of cards that you have in your deck.
It's true. At the same time, like it's okay for people to not want to play against that. And that's the whole point of the Rule Zero conversation is the brackets are not it's not law, it's spirit. Where if you're going like, hey, I can now play my Urza Lord High Artificer in my bracket 2 or in my, in spirit flagship deck or whatever, that's like, this just becomes really good in there. Or like in Kilo, where like you can tap him for mana and, do the whole thing. You can now play it in bracket 2 from like a legality standpoint of the brackets. If you have a play group that's like, I hate Urza. I don't want to see Urza. He shouldn't have been taken off the Game Changers list, whatever. There's something to be said about somebody who respects that for their play group and goes, you know what? I'm going to handle this one with grace and I'm going to just choose to not play this in here, or just go, cool, I'm going to throw him in a bracket 3 deck or throw him in a bracket 4 deck where that conversation won't come up. So just be prepared. Like this is the whole point of this, is to prepare you for the bracket 0 conversation, not to do it for you.
Yeah. Speaking of those brackets, we want to go ahead and roll over to that portion of the update here.
Let's do it. Let's start with reading bracket 1 because it doesn't really matter. Players, the new thing is that players expect blank. So it's a good way for you to understand. If I'm going into bracket 1, we're kind of all expecting this. Decks to prioritize a goal, theme, or idea over power. And it's really important. This was actually post Gavin's video today. Rachel Weeks, who is on the Commander Committee, clarified that a theme is not a mechanic. So you cannot say the theme of my deck is +1/+1 counters. That is a mechanical deck, which cannot exist in bracket 1, which is exhibition. Exhibition is art and flavor. So if the theme of your deck is pictures of cats, and you only have art of that has a cat in it somewhere, I would almost argue that leans core 2 because it's kind of a kindred deck, which is mechanical.
Yeah. Something that I potentially saw as an example is like a character kindred sort of
Yes.
thing, right? Like because
Totally.
this will lean toward in the bottom portion of what this kind of thing here, because exhibition level also technically has a restriction of no game changers per se, but
Right.
you can substitute that into, like, example I saw is something like if you were playing Oops All Bolus, you could, with the right appropriation, you could include something like Bolus's Citadel in that.
Yeah, totally. And again, it's so like gelatinous, the rules for bracket 1 exhibition, largely because it's kind of a bracket that doesn't really exist. The average person does not have an exhibition deck. I would say that maybe 5% of Commander players have an exhibition deck, and it's only because they sought that out and have a play group that sought that out as well. So I would say it'll largely ignore exhibition as a bracket when you're going into deck building, for the sake of I'm going to sit and play Commander at your average store. The win condition has to be highly thematic or substandard. So you are hampering your deck with the purpose of bringing our art and flavor into it. Gameplay is exclusively an opportunity to show off something cool. It's exhibition. It's an exhibit. It's much more of an art piece than it is an actual like functional deck. Despite the fact that it might be as well. Bracket 2 is where we really start getting into the nitty gritty here. Decks to be unoptimized and straightforward, with some cards chosen to maximize creativity and or entertainment. So it's like bracket 1 bias, but with a function. So I would even say this idea of an Oops All Cats deck is definitely core 2, bracket 2, which is the core level. Because it is a functional deck that prioritizes the functionality of cats and how they synergize together. But you might be including more cards that just have cats in the art as well. If your jumping off point is function and you've leaned in an art direction, I would say this is solidly core 2.
Yeah, that's kind of a very good case example of that. Like if you have done, and they made this point about here that core level 2 used to kind of encompass everything as far as like precons, but that also has kind of been lifted as a restriction as well. That certain precons can now be identified at higher power levels, things like ones from master sets and commander things, whatever, and like secret layer decks. Those were not at the relative same power level as like a precon that you could purchase from, and heck, even precons that came out alongside like standard releases. Like it would be remiss to say that something like the precons that we got from Aether Drift were way underpowered compared to Final Fantasy.
Oh, absolutely. And especially when you look at like even the Edge of Eternity's precons were like very overpowered. So what this allows is, again, less bad faith arguments where someone can say, oh, it's just a precon, but it's the coin flip secret layer precon that's like ridiculously strong. It's like, well, it's a bracket 2 because it's a precon. So they've removed it. So they've sort of inverted it where it was like every precon was bracket 2 bracket 2 was to be comparable to a precon. They've now switched it around so that the average precon is going to sit in bracket 2, but it allows them to make some stronger precons and removes bad faith arguments about, well, this deck's just a precon.
Yeah.
Another important thing to note, starting at bracket 2 and going forward, they've removed the tutor restrictions on brackets, where it used to be in bracket 2, I think, or maybe bracket 3 was few tutors. Bracket 2. I don't know why I keep wanting to call it core 2. Bracket 2 was maybe thematic tutors, etc. They just removed that entirely because they're just going, you know what? Tutoring's a part of the game. Not all tutors are created equal as well. So it just kind of creates some interesting conversations of like, well, yeah, obviously demonic tutor is a game changer. So it has to be in bracket 3 and above. But like diabolic tutor, the ones that cost 4 mana or 5 mana, or maybe they like tutor something is very specific for your deck. They're just like, whatever, like play those if you want. They're largely bad. I would say above like the game changers catches a lot of the powerful tutors, which was their argument for removing that. Is like, look, the good ones are going to get caught by the game changers list. Everything else, use at your own discretion, essentially.
I'll still go on and say that definitely for like the lower power levels, the best budget one is still always going to be Diabolic Intent. That one is like very good for this kind of power
That's
level.
the demonic tutor that sacrifices a creature, right?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, it's a banger.
Because
It is
you can
almost
play
all the time just been demonic tutor for me.
Yeah, because you can just play that in a theme deck of like you want your things to die anyway, and oops, here's your demonic tutor for 13 cents or whatever it costs nowadays.
I really like I'm struggling to remember the name of it. I want to say Demonic Consultation, but I know that's not it. It's 3 mana, exile the top 13 cards of your library, and then Demonic Tutor.
Oh, Demonic Bargain.
Demonic Bargain. I really like that one a lot, just on sheer principle of like, we might whiff on this.
That's one of my go-tos for Junderdome.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You'll find something in there. God, yeah, I love that. And then talking about expectations of turn length, generally you should expect to be able to play at least 8 turns before you win or lose in a core game, in a bracket 2 game. So what that means is it obviously no early game combos are allowed. Your game plan should be able to be up and running by turn 8. You're kind of allowed to be upset if you lose on turn 4 when you're playing a core or you're playing a bracket 2 game. So expect about 8 turns to be when someone's going to set up either winning or you losing a game in core, which I'm really glad that they included this. I think this was one of the big missing pieces. It was one of the big missing pieces of the bracket system was turn length, because I know they're not going to include budget ever as a part of this because WotC isn't allowed to acknowledge the secondary market. So
Sure.
The budget a lot of times correlates directly to the length of the game. It's kind of why like CDH is a really expensive format and can win on turn 1. Like the more expensive pieces typically turbo your game plan a lot. So this is a way for me of going like, okay, if I'm playing a budget deck and I'm not including a ton of ramp pieces or even good ramp pieces or whatever, I can build a bracket 2 deck that takes longer to go. And also just like as we go on through the brackets, the social aspect of the game mitigates. So starting in bracket 2, it's like you're here for a good time. You're here to hang out with your friends.
Yeah.
You've got a pre-con that you just busted open. You want to go like 8 to 10 turns so that you can all see a lot of the cards that your deck has and play a lot of cool strategies.
You should, as a whole, you should be expecting to roll up to any of these brackets with the expectation to have fun. That is why we are all here. This is a game to be played with your friends or your new friends, especially if you're there at like a brand new shop. The whole purpose of this bracket, you're there to have a good time. So no matter which of these you end up playing at, you niche Exhibition 1 enjoyers, you need to be having fun while playing this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Bracket 2, I feel like we've gone over a lot. Again, your average pre-con is going to be sitting somewhere in bracket 2, maybe with a bracket 3 bias, if it's one of the stronger ones. Bracket 3 is the upgraded bracket, which now says that players expect decks to be powered up with strong synergy and high card quality. They can effectively disrupt opponents. So enough interruption, enough interaction, enough ramp to be able to keep up with the entire table. Maybe it's a pre-con that you've upgraded 10 cards in or more, so it doesn't feel like the pre-con out of the box anymore. Game changers that are likely to be value engines and game-ending spells. Again, bracket 3, you are allowed up to 3 game changers in it. So include those powerful cards to help end your game and speed up your plans. Win conditions. You can expect win conditions that can be deployed in one big turn from hand, usually because of steadily accrued resources. So you've been sitting there amassing your resources, and now you can confidently say, I'm going for the win. That exists in bracket 3. You can also expect gameplay to feature many proactive and reactive plays. The stack is very important in bracket 3.
We love the stack.
We love the stack. Expect your spells to have reactions in bracket 3. And then you should generally expect about 6 turns before anybody wins or loses in bracket 3. This is my bread and butter. I love bracket 3.
I feel like this is true for a lot of people, you know, because it's like as this is where like your seasoned players play, you know what I mean? The people who have a reservoir of cards from their previous precons and their booster boxes and their singles that they've purchased online, you know, they're tweaking, modifying, they're crafting a new deck every couple of months or so and just shuffling over those staple pieces from one to another and trying out fun new things, but still making sure that their synergy level and their reactiveness to their overall environment is still high.
Yeah, completely agreed. I think that when I set out to build a deck, I typically start it as a bracket 3 deck and then scale it either up or down based on how it plays and what I'm trying to do as a strategy. This is just so much fun. I also typically don't include game changers in my bracket 3 decks. For lack of availability, just it's something that I don't own a ton of. But also because I like really unique strategies, and a lot of times the game changers don't really fit into that outside of a handful of them. So I like the option to have game changers. But again, this is what I mean by the brackets are more for guiding intent of play rather than being guidelines for deck building, because I like building strategies that can compete in bracket 3, and I want to compete them in bracket 3 and intend to do that. But I don't have to include 3 game changers in it, and I don't have to include 2 card combos that are by turn 6, like I'm doing my 2-card combo. It's just more of like, I like slapping around in bracket 3. So whatever I'm going to throw into the ring, I'm happy whether it wins or loses in bracket 3.
I'm here for a 4-card pile of trash combo pieces.
This is where all of your 4-mana artifacts and enchantments that do nothing sit, is right in bracket 3 so that you can make them work.
Yeah, I suppose. But no, actually, and like in seriousness, like this is a fantastic plot to like kind of pull like a very specific one talking about here, which is the Blood Bond combo cards, right? It's like, yeah, these are perfectly fine at this kind of level here, because like out excluding any kind of amount of extra ramp, you're landing either Sanguine Bond or Exquisite Blood on your turn 5, and that would be the other half if you happen to have both in hand, which if you're also limiting the amount of tutors that you play as well, can be a probability that it's not going to happen. But let's say Christmas Land happens and you've drawn both pieces within your first 4 turns. That's one of those down on turn 5 and then the other one down on turn 6, and you're right on curve to win the game, of which all of your opponents have had a turn cycle to see, oh, that's Sanguine Bond, we know what that does.
Deeply signaled. Yeah. And also, like, this is another bit of a rant, but like, tell people when you put a combo piece into play, don't rely on people's knowledge of combos to get cheeky wins. If you played a combo piece, say it with 10 toes down. Just strongly say, I am playing Sanguine Bond. This is one of my combo pieces in the deck, so that people can accurately threat assess. If you are trying to get wins because you sneaked under the radar of people not knowing what half of a combo piece is. I'm also talking exclusively about 2-card combos here. It helps for table talk of threat assessment. I like being the archenemy. So like I will straight up tell people, and I was like, hey, this is half of my combo here. So you guys have 1 turn. I would actually say another really great example of this is something like Approach of the Second Sun, which I think is technically a 2-card combo, despite it all existing on 1 card. The amount that telegraphs is exactly bracket 3 to me, which is, hey, I've played this card. It is going 7 cards down. Likely I have a way to find it in the next turn, but worst case scenario, you guys got a few more turns to figure this thing out before I just like emergency eject the game. And that's kind of how the combo pieces in bracket 3 typically work. And then the last one we're really going to touch on here is bracket 4, which is an optimized deck. This is, you've taken your deck and you've put it to the nth degree, barring looking at CEDH metagame decks. If you, Joey from the EDH Thoughtcast has a great heuristic where if you're questioning whether your deck is bracket 5 or bracket 4, it's a bracket 4 deck. Congratulations. It does not adhere to the CEDH metagame. So if you've not net decked your deck to be played, or pulled a deck that has won a tournament, or you are basing your decisions off of what you know other people at your CEDH tournament are going to be playing, you're playing a bracket 4 deck. So not adhering to that. Decks are lethal, consistent, and fast, designed to take people down as fast as possible. You should expect within 4 turns. By turn 4, you will have some
People
winning
can start
and losing
winning.
happening.
Yep.
Exactly. It is just the best of the best win conditions. It's the best of the best ramp. This is as many game changers as you want to play in your deck. There is no restrictions as far as that goes. The only separation between bracket 4 and bracket 5 is that bracket 5 is exclusively for metagame CEDH lists. So again, you've looked at your local tournament report for the CEDH tournament that the winner gets a Tundra or whatever, and you've pulled the winning deck list, and you are either building that deck or you are building a deck to combat that deck. That is bracket 5. Typically, it is paying for a tournament that you will win money from if you win. That is competitive play, and that is CEDH. If you are at a kitchen table or a LGS or whatever, and you're playing that is not with the intent of we're practicing for a CEDH tournament, but you have unlimited game changers, fast decks, could win by turn 4, chaining extra turns together, mass denial, all of those things, it's a bracket 4 deck. And I will say, I love me some bracket 4. That is some fun stuff in there. Just seeing how powerful a deck can possibly be is ridiculous.
I'm a big enjoyer of this one as well. Yeah, I don't have as many decks that I would count. Like in my entire repertoire of the ones that I own, I would comfortably play maybe 2 of my decks at this level. And even then, the one isn't even necessarily like crazy good optimized, but can hang at that level that high. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I've got like 2 decks that I would rotate between in a bracket 4 pod. What I love about this, again, like we said, these are goalposts and not guidelines for a deck. So I brought this up on our Discord, link down below. For a long time, you could build a $40 or $50 Zada Hedron Grinder deck that is unbelievably consistent, wins super quickly, and can hang at really high power tables. And there was an argument for, well, this is just a bracket 2 deck because it costs $40 and there's no game changers in it, etc. Now, with these expectations set in the brackets, there is no questions whether a Zada Hedron Grinder deck is anything other than bracket 4, because you've optimized that deck as much as it can be optimized to the point where it can win as early as turn 4, realistically, even on a $40, $50 budget. But you cannot play that in lower brackets because it's too consistently going to win at turn 4, turn 5. So having this is like just another really great heuristic, even outside of the game changers, outside of tutor restrictions that used to be there, outside of anything. I think that the turn expectations is the most important part of this new update on the brackets.
Yeah, I like that part the most about this here, which again, if you play with a kind of group that enjoys setting yourselves like those boundary restrictions, being like, okay, we are playing decks at this particular power level. Let's all ensure that we all hit that proper turn count, and then we can start like really firing off on all cylinders to kill each other. You know what I mean? And then if something like breaks away from that, where like somebody either on purpose or accidentally has a win that pops them off prior to that, and then you can have that conversation around, be like, what happened during the course of this game that either we missed or you messed up that is identifiable as something that can be changed to either bring that power level down or everybody start scooting their way back up.
Yeah. I think that they've done some really great work here. This is, I would say that we're relatively close to a finalized bracket system. The last thing we really have to talk about is some potential changes that would lead into the finalized bracket system. I think the first and most important one that I want to talk about is change to how hybrid mana would work as far as commander identity works. Because this is the most fascinating bit to me. We have some things to talk about as well as like what might get banned, just a few other little changes. But the biggest one is that they're considering allowing hybrid mana symbols to be an either or situation where something they pulled Risk the Redeemed as an example, where all of the mana symbols on it are hybrid green and white. In any other format of Magic that doesn't care about color identity, you could be playing a mono white deck and play Risk the Redeemed in it because
Right.
all of it's white deck, and all of his abilities can be activated with white as well as being cast for a single white.
And
So
notably, they fall within that color pie of white as well. That's an important key that they noted about this here is like every single thing that Risk is able to do is all token centered, and big, heavy, splashy token decks are typically found in green and white.
yeah, so right now, if you're playing a mono white deck, you are not allowed to include Risk the Redeemed in it because it has green in its identity. The proposed change for hybrid mana would allow you to include Risk the Redeemed in that deck because all of his mana symbols are both green and white, so you could run it as an or option. Which let me know what you think about that first.
Out the gate, I do not like any of this whatsoever.
I agree. This makes it really confusing. I think it just creates a bit more confusion than it's worth. I also just don't know if it's that impactful. There's not a ton of hybrid cards that are exclusively hybrid. The biggest thing that would be alongside that is, and it's something they brought up, is something like Beseech the Queen, which cost hybrid black and 2 generic mana 3 times over. So essentially, like, would they allow you to play something like Beseech the Queen in a colorless deck or in any deck because it's you're able to cast it with generic mana? So that was even in the article and in the video, they're like, we don't really know how this would affect something like this, because the other thing is you could then include Reaper King in any deck.
Yeah.
Any deck at all, because you can cast it for 10 generic mana or, hybrid of one of each of the colors.
Right. It would be the most interesting thing. What would happen in that kind of scenario when it comes to companions? Like
Companions, you would be allowed to play those as their mono colors.
Mono blue Karuga. Ooh, I'm
See,
a fan.
and that's kind of where I'm like, that's kind of sick. Like, if they do allow that, it is cool. I do think it builds in some more confusion where it's not entirely necessary.
Exactly.
But you're right. Companions, I do think, would be the most interesting change as far as all of those changes go. To be clear as well, this does not affect something like a Deathrite Shaman that has a hybrid mana cost, but its abilities have individual colors in their activated ability cost. That would still be exclusively a green-black card. So that's just a fascinating thing that they're thinking about changing and kind of doing some playtesting on. So we'll see what happens with that. Their languaging around it kind of makes it seem like they've decided to do it already, and they're checking for feedback before it happens. The ones that don't feel that way is what they're considering about for the ban list, which is Rhystic Study and Thassa's Oracle get called out specifically as these are on the chopping block of going from game changers to being banned. Longtime listeners know that I am in favor of banning both of those. So this came as no surprise to me, and in fact brought me some joy to know that maybe they're going to ban what I think are some of the most ridiculous cards in the format. John, what do you think about banning Rhystic Study?
I was about to say, when talking about like the two cards as a whole between the two of them, I think Rhystic Study is fine. I want to say
interesting.
Because it is a card very similar to a lot of the other ones that we've talked about tonight that has such a strong reputation behind it, and people know how to appropriately react and respond to a card like Rhystic Study, that if you're playing it, you're at that power level where people can interact with it at this point. And truthfully, I understand that the card draw potential of Rhystic Study is some of the most unparalleled of the game. It is also a card from over 30 years ago at this point that we are now playing with some cards that are equal up to, if not greater than, the power of Rhystic Study, I'd say. So it's a great card. Don't mishear me. But I think the places that are playing it, people have the correct, appropriate responses for it.
Yeah, that's fair, and that's almost exactly what their response was currently we are not looking at banning this, but we've obviously gotten a lot of heat about Ristic Study in lower brackets.
Mhm.
So their current line of thinking is we're probably not going to ban this because it's almost as iconic as Soul Ring, which they're also not going to ban, even though it is also a quote unquote problem of the format, where every deck includes it, and if you're not, it's an unoptimized deck. Ristic Study is very similar in blue decks, where it's like there's no reason not to run Ristic Study. This is why I think it should be banned. Is it homogenizes the format, where I think that you should have to include interesting cards if you're playing a blue deck in brackets 2 I guess in brackets 3. Again, this only affects bracket 3, so maybe I am on team don't ban Ristic Study. I might be circling this the drain of that. Thassa's Oracle.
Luigi logic strikes again.
That's right. Thassa's Oracle, I do think needs to go.
100%. Thassa's Oracle is a mistake.
Of the two of them, I would much rather see Thassa's Oracle banned.
There is no fair world for Thassa's Oracle. There is no reason for it to be as strong as it is. Let's even talk about like outside of the I win the game's possibilities behind it here. Just the fact that you get so much like off the top look off of your devotion to blue that can be blinked and reanimated and copied and cloned. So even when you're not doing busted, I win the game instantly type of effects, then but that's all that Thassa's Oracle is known for. And just like there just is no reason for a card to be that popular. Like competitive CDH, like I understand they love this card. It's one of the top things that wins games all the time. It would give a huge shakeup to all formats. It would stretch the entire bracket system if Thassa's Oracle was removed from the game.
Yeah. Dude, it's crazy to me that Dockside Extortionist caught a ban, but Thassa's Oracle didn't. If we're talking about CEDH, like Dockside Extortionist was one of the only reasons to run red, and it got caught a ban. But then this blue, I win the game on the stack, and it's largely uninteractable. In one of the most efficient 2-card combos that have ever existed in Magic, has not been banned is wild to me. So I would fully expect to see Thassa's Oracle banned by the beginning of the year. It's also important to mention that they are not touching the ban list for the rest of this calendar year of 2025.
Yeah, we knew that last time that they had an update. They said the changes that they made, no further bans for the course of this year. They're just them reassuring us of that this time again.
Yep.
So just as a quick, just off the dome, closing thoughts kind of thing, talking about game changers as a whole, if you were to add yourselves one new card to the game changer list or have another card taken off the current list, what would those be?
Dang, I didn't have this prepared. Why don't you go first?
Okay, I'm still going to sit on my example for all of this. Card that needs up to the game changer list, farewell. That needs to be up there at Game Changer. It is still, that is the wrath of the game that just dynamically changes how everyone else is going to play the rest of that game going forward. You've lost all your creatures, you've lost all your enchantments, you've lost your graveyard, and permanently, like you can't get those back anymore. That has slowed the dang game down dramatically. There's no reason for underpowered strategies at like 2 or lower to be playing stupid wraths like Farewell. As a Farewell enjoyer, put Farewell on the Game Changers list, please.
Yeah, that's fair. I can tell you for sure the one that needs to come off is Gamble. I am so sick of Gamble being on the Game Changers list. I'm still salty about this. I think that Gamble is one of the sickest tutors, and I think every red deck should play Gamble just for the fun of it.
That would your choice would tie into the card that I would want off the Game Changer list, which is Crop Rotation. I love Crop Rotation so much.
The thing is, though, Crop Rotation has insane value that scales based on how you've built your deck. In the nth degree, you've got Gaia's Cradle as this is 1 mana, go and find Gaia's Cradle, which is obviously on the list. In more casual games, like I use it to go and find a tower. Why am I blank? Reliquary Tower.
Reliquary Tower.
Dude, my brain today. I use it to go find Reliquary Tower all the time. So I'm with you. I think both Gamble and crop rotation could probably come off the list. Crop rotation, I'm even a little iffy about. I think it should probably stay. Card that I don't know if I think any more cards should go on the Game Changers list. I think we've really like nailed a good bit of it. Yeah, every card that I'm thinking of, it already exists there. So I'm on team no new adds to the Game Changer. I really like.
That's
where
a
we're
valid
sitting
answer.
right now.
That's a valid answer.
Maybe
Totally.
maybe Displacer Kitten. Maybe.
You think so? Really?
Because it's similar to Thassa's Oracle. It's like largely uninteractable. Because it can blink itself on being targeted. If you cast any other non-creature spell, it can just blink itself to counter anything that's targeting it. And then the amount of things that blink on a non-creature cast can do is wild. Everything from resetting Mystic Remoras to blinking in the that thief that costs 7 mana and steals permanents. Agent of Treachery.
Yeah, Agent of Treachery. Yes.
Yeah, you could like blink that and just steal everything, and then it just goes infinite. With a brick. Like it is ridiculous how quickly it goes infinite with like 2 0-drops, or like I actually love the Displacer Kitten to Fairy Time Raveler and like Mox Amber loop that just resets Planeswalkers with this stupid cat. Yeah, it's really, really good. And I think if there's anything that should maybe be considered for a Game Changer, I think it maybe is Displacer Kitten.
Okay. No, that's a great answer as well. Fantastic.
Thanks. I think that's all we've got time for today. And we've gone over all of it. So kudos to us. Great job, John, on keeping a concise conversation about a very complex topic. Let us know down below if you agree with us or disagree with us. I'm open to both of those comments. How has the brackets affected your gameplay, deck building, and play groups? Would genuinely love to hear a lot about that, and I'll be responding to those comments with haste. So let us know down below. While you're there, the YouTube buttons are all right there. It keeps us in your feeds more often, and who wouldn't want to see Luigi and Totoro talking about Magic more often? I can't promise that we'll be doing costumes more often, but I can promise that we will still be talking about Magic.
You're hearing it from me right now. Halloween tradition locking in costumes.
Locking in. Subscribe so that you get our next Halloween video a year from now and see what costumes we're wearing then. While you're there, join our Discord. It's a blast. We have so much fun there. Once again, shout out to Heavy Play, sponsors of the show. That's heavyplay.com/MTG Thoughtcast or MTG Thoughtcast at checkout for 10% off your first order. If you definitely would want to reach out to us in other ways, you can find us on social media at Blue Sky. That is MTG Thoughtcast at Blue Sky, or .bluesky.social or whatever. And then Joseph-Thoughtcast and John-Thoughtcast for our personal pages, or you can send us an email at mtgthoughtcast@gmail.com. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for being here. We will see you so very soon back here on the MTG Thoughtcast. See ya.